r/AskReddit, what just kinda disappeared one day without anybody noticing? 3D TVs. They were supposed to be the next big thing. But I don't see them anymore. I never used that feature on mine when I had one. 3D in general has fallen off a cliff. Probably because it's just not very compelling and much more expensive to manufacture and support. I've literally never heard someone go, "Oh, you have to see that movie in 3D." 3D was huge about 10 years ago, but the novelty wore off. 3D in the theater is not the same as 3D on your TV. But even the novelty of 3D in the theater kind of wore off. I did get to see Jurassic Park and The Lion King again when they were re-released in 3D in the theaters, so that was the only real plus. 3D in theaters was kind of a rip-off too. They had like 2 10-second scenes with extra jump out at you effects and the rest were just a little extra depth at most. As someone who wears regular glasses, that always annoyed me so much. I spend the other 2.5 hours annoyed and uncomfortable for like a minute of actual 3D. 2016's Killer Clowns thing. All the influencers had their fun and then the views dropped off, so they moved on. Totally killed Ronald McDonald though. Bummer I guess. Character had been around for decades. That dude is his own nightmare fuel. Silly bands. Cell phones as health hazards. Once we got smartphones they became so useful even conspiracy theorists stopped talking about radiation and cancer caused by them. And no conclusive study was made. The early studies had an unintentional wealth bias. Those who had phones were well off and more likely to get screened for cancer. Once everyone had a phone and they were cheap, no more correlations were found. It's because the physics are well known. The waves emitted are much less energetic, on a photonic level, than visible light. That means the waves cannot ionize your DNA and cause cancer like UV, X-ray, or gamma rays. It can only slightly heat you, imperceptibly, or pass straight through you. Fidget spinners. And that really upsets me. I probably own about 15 fidget spinners. I'm effing addicted to them. And I don't care at all about the color/style/appearance. I just love the sensation and the feeling. So the ones I have are all super well balanced, they spin for very long times, and they have the best ball bearings. I used to be able to pick up a good one for around $5 at a farmer's market. Maybe 5 for $20 at a flea market or something. But now, if you want a well-made one, you have to fork over $20 or more. Sure, you can get basic ones at dollar stores, but those are crappy ones that squeak or are terribly imbalanced. Nobody cares about quality anymore, they only want flashy colors and logos. I know I sound like a total dweeb. I don't care. What the F do you even do with them lol? Someone with anxiety here. Without fidget spinners, I would pick on my skin when anxious or nervous, which is very often since I have a stressful job. Had fidget spinners for 2 months now and man my skin is smooth again. Cheat code books in stores. Cheat codes in general. Some games do them as a throwback, but most games will charge you for the same effects. will.i.am. Now he's just will.i was. Gautier. He had one song that was huge. Now he's just somebody that we used to know. Sure he was a one-hit wonder, but that's a bit mean. You really didn't have to stoop so low. My man really didn't deserve to get cut off like that. Just make it out like it never happened and it was nothing. White dog SHH. I read that ones because they used to put crushed bone powder in dog food for calcium, and since bone doesn't decompose, it'd stick around in dog SH the longest and turn it white. Then they stopped that and dog SH stopped turning white. Sort of. White dog poop is caused by excess calcium, not bone powder making it through the digestive tract. The bone theory came from the fact that bone meal was a primary additive in dog food for the purposes of adding calcium, and still is found in many dog foods. Over time, we've found that dogs' need for calcium is much lower than previously thought, and the amount of added calcium to dog food has been considerably lowered since the 80s/90s. How when you used to turn off a TV, the light would shrink to a dot in the middle of the screen before fading to black. I wish newer TVs had an option to toggle a simulated version of that. Phone books. Can't remember the last time I saw one. Lucky you. They drop one off at my house every year. A lot of insects. When I was a kid, you couldn't drive on the highway for any length of time without a huge splatter of bugs across the front of the car. Now that almost never happens. $5 footlongs at Subway. Phone holsters that hang off your belt. Edit. It seems like they are still out and about. Please, next time you see one, kill it with a stick. My dad tried to hang on but eventually gave up and carried it in his pocket. 51-year-old dad here. I still use phone holsters that hook to my belt. In fact, once I found one I liked. I bought 3 of them just in case the one I'm using wears out. r/Cringetopia. Didn't really see much news about it disappearing after the mods ruined the place for a quick buck. Man, that sub imploded quickly and overnight. What happened? The mods introduced a bunch of ridiculous and unnecessary to get people to leave the sub and use their new site. But what was it? What was ridiculous and unnecessary? I need answers. Ridiculous and unnecessary what? I assume rules, but there's a blank word here. I think rules. Life jackets. The missing word was life jackets. Life? Or jackets? That's 2 words. Does not compute. Yep, exactly, thumbs up emoji. I knew it. The hole in the ozone layer. It didn't disappear. A bunch of experts studied it and convinced governments to follow their recommendations, without making it a polarizing political issue. See also, acid rain, Y2K bug, DDT and birds, leaded gasoline, smallpox, hookworm in the US. It actually got much better. It's one of the best instances of the world coming together for an environmental issue. Those rubber, multicolored, spiky-looking earnings. Gaming without microtransactions. Gleefully awaited the new 2K every year since the first one. Then microtransactions kicked in and have gotten worse every year. Didn't buy the last one for the first time ever. Bought my last 2 generations of console mostly just to play 2K, and now I probably won't ever buy a new console again. My favorite kind of games just don't exist anymore, and younger generations don't seem to care. I can't blame them, either. They never got to experience the fun of building up your character through gameplay. I for one am really going to miss it. Not sure I count as younger, but as a 20-year-old microtransactions are the bane of my existence. The Pony Express. Made obsolete overnight by telegrams. Murder hornets, where did they go? They're waiting. Free toys in cereal. The commotion in the vicinity of devices is always listening. The Xbox One Connect created quite a stir, and nowadays you can't buy a device that isn't always listening. Dubstep. Still big, just not as successful in the mainstream as it was in the early 2010s. Pickle Rick memes. Ska music. Google Glass. People saying everybody who took the vaccine would be dead in 3 months. PSY the Gangnam Style dude, he made a song and had the whole world in his hands playing the song and doing the dance, but suddenly he disappeared. I wonder what happened to him. The Rainbow Loom, popular in late 2013/early 2014 and wasn't popular anymore after like 3 weeks. Cars that run on natural gas. What happened there? Pokemon Go. That was more due to the creating company killing the third-party stuff people were using to hunt specific Pokemons. They kinda shot themselves in the foot on that one. Oh man, that like 1 month of using a separate app that tracked certain Pokemon on a map was so great. We would hop in a car and rush down the road to catch a Venusaur or Dragonite. One of my favorite memories was playing in a park the summer of 2016 and someone shouting across the park there was a Dragonite and a stampede of folks just ran over and started catching it. It was a 95% 1800 CP Dragonite and I used it at every gym. That trivia app. Greta Thunberg. You're right there, I've not heard of her for like 10 months or so. She had a year off to do activism and she went back to school this past academic year. She still does school strikes on Friday outside the Swedish parliament. Everything we were worried about in the early 2000s that came from change. Being annoyed about how many Starbucks exist. Thinking ADHD is made up. Thinking that with all the computers, that kids won't know how to write. Kids are soft because they wear helmets. Bottled water is a rip-off because you can just drink from the hose. Bottled water is still a rip-off. Plastic bottles. The Harlem Shake. I wouldn't say that it completely disappeared, but it's been snowing much less and much less frequently. Unless you ask Texas. I'm in northern Ontario, Canada, and over the last decade, I've noticed it's been snowing later and later, and melting off later and later. It used to start snowing around October, now it's late December, and it lasts into April and sometimes May, instead of being gone by March. There was that year where everyone was into swing music, and then no one was. Cyberpunk.